And we are live once again for episode 196 of Behind the ToolBelt. I am Ty Backer.
And I'm Ken Yance.
TC Backer. Roofing, siding, windows, gutters, solar. Roofing, siding, windows, gutters, solar. TC Backer.
Behind the Tool Belt is sponsored by Lead Scout. Find out more at leadscoutapp.com.
Is your lead flow down? Whether you're a company owner, office staff, salesperson, or installer, you're a roofing rock star. We help you get more leads with custom SEO, Google Ads, and a pro website.
TC Backer.
Oh boy, we're back already, man. Welcome back, everybody, to episode 196. What a great day. What a great week so far, man. We got a lot of stuff going on. We got the food drive coming up. We got the 21 turkey coming up the day before Thanksgiving Eve. Ken's up from South Carolina. A lot of things are good. We had a great in-depth conversation. That's why we were actually a little bit later than usual because of just reminiscing, catching up. Ryan, it's been a minute since I got to see him. I can't even remember which one was the last time. I don't know if it was Win the Storm or IRE or one of them. But glad. Thank you for wanting to come back on the show. And of course, Ken's back up from South Carolina. I like to call it South Kakalaki. And Ken is going to try to encourage bad behavior. So I must warn everybody, if you have your children watching in your living room right now, you may want to send them to bed early tonight, because I feel like tonight might get a little what? Yeah. Spicy, little gritty.
We're here to celebrate.
We're here to celebrate. Yeah. Okay. Celebration.
Pump it up.
Let's go. All right, let's do this. So, Ryan, unless you got a couple of things you want to throw in the mix there on the intro here.
No, man, I'm stoked to be here.
Right on.
And just happened I was coming to town already and had this opportunity. So, man, I've watched the show every week. Love it. Looking forward to having this great conversation today. So, and hanging out with the team.
I'm grateful you're here, man.
And I appreciate you.
I really am. I'm grateful for everything. And I meant every word of it. So, Ken, I got to invite Ken to the York Builders Association, which is the second or third Wednesday of maybe the fourth, whatever Wednesday this is, of the month. And the York Builders Association is very involved with the community and stuff like that. So I called Lori, the executive president. I said, hey, Ken from South Carolina is up. He's our VP of operations down there. I said, would it be awkward or weird if I had brought him to just kind of sit in and see how we do it here, so he can take that message maybe back to South Carolina and join the Builders Association down there. And she was like, she welcomed him with open arms. They had his name up on the monitor welcome Ken Yance from South Carolina, VP of Operations and stuff. So
the president even knew me from Facebook.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I know you already.
Yes,
yeah,
the president walked over and was like, yeah, he's already Facebook famous.
I was like, I'll sign autographs after the meeting.
That's right. And all the women were bowing to you. I saw that. I saw that. Donna, I'm just kidding if you're watching. Ken was a good compliment to be there. And what I said about Ken being there is that I'm proud of what Ken has done and the team and the company, the extension of the company and how you represent the company down there. I meant every word of that when I said I'm proud to show you off, because you have and are a perfect example of the message. When my back is turned, I know it's better when my back is turned, when I know you're in the room. So I do mean that sincerely. So thank you for coming in and staying, and let's kick ass, take names tomorrow.
Let's do it.
Right on, brother. Yeah, right on. So Ryan, my man, that's why you're here. That's why we're here. Not because of other things, but I almost rolled in with something else there, but Ryan Holliday, my man, you're not actually the author, are you?
I'm not the author. The author has one L in his last name. I have two. So,
but did you do that intentionally? To differentiate the two?
I don't know that I could have planned ahead for that, but if I did, that would be pretty amazing.
Yes, it would. But you are a very amazing person. And why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are? Let's go back a little bit before we dive into like what it is that you do and how you can benefit and impact contractors across the nation.
Sure. Well, thank you so much, guys, for even having me on the show. And it's awesome having two hosts tonight. So I appreciate the opportunity to be on. So my name is Ryan Holliday. I am the co-founder and head of strategy for iink, and we are a payments platform that specializes in multi-party property claim payments. And our platform is, I guess, similar to what you would think of like DocuSign for a multi-party check, where you can upload a check and 4 or 5 people can digitally endorse it. We even have some mortgage companies that are digitally endorsing on our platform, and there are going to be a lot more soon. But our goal is to ultimately eliminate the check, so that way when a property claim is approved, the funds are in the contractor's account the following day, so they can get started with the repairs and all the prior approvals by the insured, and everybody who is involved in that payment, like the mortgage company, can verify electronically and just move the money much faster. So that's our end goal. But in the interim, we have built a platform that certainly helps move the money much faster than normal, I guess you could say.
Okay. So what you're saying is if we're in a storm restoration, is it typically storm restoration that you're impacting the most?
Yeah, it could be any property claim where the insurance company has to pay a check, and whether there is a mortgage company on the check or not, you can upload remotely on our web app with your phone or your laptop. Any verified professional can remotely upload a check up to $1.5 million. And it can be one check in or 3 payments out. We all know that there are many people involved in this process that are receiving funds. And so you could have a check with 2 insureds, a public adjuster, a property attorney, and maybe the contractor's not even on the check, but they're receiving funds. And so there you may have 3 entities that are receiving funds off of one check. So we make it easy just to split those funds rather than do it the old way, running around town with a piece of paper, getting it signed by everybody, and then taking it to the bank and then cutting a bunch of checks. It's ridiculous. It's way too much time. This is back in 2016, we thought it was ridiculous when we first sat down to discuss the idea. But here we are today. We're getting closer to the goal of, or the reality of, having a claim approved and funds are moved immediately.
Okay. So let's back up here a little bit and see if we can explain this a little more in layman's terms, so I can understand it a little bit better, and maybe some of our audience here. So
Yeah.
So basically, it's an app, a web app. Is it a subscription, a monthly subscription, or is it a free app?
No, we do have a fee to get verified. It's $2.99, but once you're underwritten on our platform, then you are approved. Or sometimes we have a conditional approval. Maybe if you're a newer company and you need to build a little bit of credit with us. But everybody likes to get approved for the advanced funding. So that way, let's say, your customer receives their insurance check, they call you up, they say, Ty, just got my check from the insurance company. And you're like, great, I'm going to go ahead and enter the receivable in ink. And I'm going to send you a link, Mrs. Johnson, here, so you can upload a picture of that check to the platform. We'll get it processed and deposited. And since we can get the advanced funding, we can get you into scheduling in the next couple days or so, as soon as it clears with ink. And then you don't have to worry about the mortgage company that's on that check. They're going to take care of it. And so that's really it. You'll enter in a few details to ink, and then you can send Mrs. Johnson a link to upload a picture of the check front and back. It's very, user friendly. And then once the check is uploaded, everybody will approve the payment. So you could have 3 people, you could have 8 people that are associated with the payment. But as soon as everybody signs off on it, we will move those funds any which way you would like. And everybody connects their bank account through Plaid on the platform. So it's just like Venmo or Cash App. Very simple to receive your funds.
Okay. Now, is that the only way to use your app if the homeowner receives the check?
Actually, we encourage everybody to use our platform for any check that needs to be deposited, because the good news is if there's no mortgage company on the check, we don't charge anything. So once you are, signed up and verified, it's just pay as you go or pay as you use us. And we have 3 different services that we offer right now. One that's expanding, but the first one is it's free if there's no mortgage company. So you could have 4 people on that check that need to sign, and you're splitting the funds 3 ways. Doesn't matter to us. It's a free service if there's no mortgage company listed as a payee on the check. And then there's 2 options. If there is a mortgage company listed on that check, you can use our standard pro service, which is 1%, but we cap it at $199 per check. So that way, if you have a large loss check, you're not paying more than $200 for us to process that for you, but it includes a FedEx shipping label, 2 days to and from the mortgage company, as well as our team following up and getting updates from the mortgage company, making sure they've received everything. If there's any paperwork that needs to be done, all that's automated and signed electronically on our system, and then submitted over to the mortgage company automatically. But we follow up with that check and provide all that visibility within the app, so you're getting updates as to what's going on, where the check's at, and everybody sees what's going on. So anybody who's tied to that money is seeing what's going on. So you don't have to have, all this communication going on in your CRM about where's the check, and, it's all tracked right within ink. And when that check comes back, it gets uploaded to the platform and deposited. But if you don't want to wait for the mortgage company, our turnaround time is pretty good. It's right around 2 weeks in and out. But if you don't want to wait that 2 weeks, you can get the advanced funding, and the advanced funding is only 1.95%. There's no cap, but it includes all the processing, and you get your money in, 1 to 2 days after that shipping label is scanned. So it's ACH right to your account, and you don't have to wait the traditional 2 weeks, sometimes longer, depending on the complexity of the check and the scope.
So how competitive is this space, and then what separates you from your competitors?
Well, I'd say it's fairly competitive. There are some other companies in the space that offer similar services. I don't know that any of them provide. There's no other companies I know that do multi-party digital endorsements of a check. I would say the thing that makes us unique is that we spent quite a bit of time building out a banking integration, which we are able to deposit funds and move money just like a bank does. And so when you deposit a check with ink, it gets converted to what's called an X9 file, and then processed through FIS's core to the Federal Reserve. And then we can move money via ACH back and forth with our own wallet. We're not, sitting on top of some other wallet functionality that may just be general to payments that are going in and out. Like I said earlier, we can take one payment in and then split it out numerous ways, 2 ways, 4 ways, doesn't matter, as long as everybody approves that payment. And I would say that that's what separates us. I don't think there's any other technology in the world that's available that can perform that function, because we had to build it from scratch. But having that capability certainly sets us up for the future, which will be one payment in, many payments out, but the approval process done in one seamless fashion.
Wow.
Nice.
Okay. Now, Ken, let me ask you a question. Being in the market that you're in down there, how would you see this benefiting you down there?
Oh, it would definitely move things much quicker,
Move
because
things.
because those checks generally come in, like right now we're sitting on 7 or 8 checks that are just went off the mortgage in La La Land, and they sit there for weeks at a time before they decide to even touch it.
Up to 30 days, maybe longer.
I mean, yeah, it's so it definitely will expedite the process tremendously.
Yeah, and I think that's some of the issues too with a lot of contractors too, is cash flow, right? Let's face it, this is a cash flow, right?
It's the number one issue.
Number one issue. Would you like to dive into that a little bit more there, Ryan?
Sure. So statistics are terrible in this industry, and 75% of roofing companies go out of business, I think, in the first 5 years.
Yeah.
That number may be generous. In fact, I've heard it might be a little higher, maybe closer to 85, but it's a very high turnover, and cash flow is the number one reason that contractors go out of business. And particularly in, insurance restoration, what a lot of contractors don't realize is, I call it the death float, because if you're not careful about the amount of money that you need to, back your business with, especially in insurance, because you think insurance is paying for it, great. Well, you don't realize that it's a 90-day cycle time on a 1-day job. It could be a roof that's done like that, but you got started with a highly depreciated ACV payment that could be, 30% of the job, but you've got 60 to 70% in labor and materials. So you've got to cover that 40% for 2 months. And what if you're turning around 2 jobs a day? What if you're building 2 roofs a day? They stack up really quick in receivables. And if you don't have a large reserve in your account to cover just that float on the back end depreciation, which is taking a lot longer than it should lately.
Mm-hmm.
You could be looking at 2-3 months to get that money in. And so, for that reason, we've actually started running a beta on an advanced funding product where we will provide an advance on the depreciation once the job is complete. And so we know the check's coming, right? It's just the same as saying the check off to the mortgage company. We know it's going to come back. We know the mortgage company is going to release it. We know that they're probably going to every once in a while screw it up along the way. We've even gotten kudos from their management team on keeping some of their reps straight as they were doing QC calls, and realized that they were talking to ink reps. But we know the check's coming back one way or another, so we'll provide the funds there. And same thing on incurred, approved payments from the carrier, right? But one day when that check doesn't have to be, printed any longer, and it could just be a digital request, we aim to move the funds much, much faster, and hopefully keep some contractors in business that otherwise, are great contractors, just not realizing the float is it can get quite overwhelming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I watched a I guess it would have been one of your breakout sessions, and you touched a lot about time, right? Like saving time for the contractor. And I know we touched on that a little bit, but during your breakout session, you talked about, giving back time. And I know there's a book that just came out too, and Hunter encouraged me to read. It's called Buy Back Your Time. And when I was listening to you talk during your breakout session, you were talking about like saving the contractor time, which we all know the old saying is time is money, right? And we talked about predominantly, and I heard numbers like 80% of roofing contractors go out of business in the first 24 months. I've heard it that scary before. You know what I mean? So who knows? It's somewhere between 2 and 5 years, and let's just say 3 years, right? 2.5, 3 years is probably a little more accurate.
Right.
But not only just helping with the cash flow portion of things, you're giving back time to the contractor, like the owner, the entrepreneur, the leadership team, and resources, right? So you're giving back more time to a company, so then they can focus more so on what they were hired to do, not necessarily calling the insurance companies, not necessarily hounding the mortgage companies, which we all know that gets you nowhere. They do what they do on their own time, and normally you don't get a response back. The check just usually shows up, or the homeowner calls you and says, "Hey, I got this check." But not only that, we've received checks already where they didn't endorse it yet. So then you got to mail it back, and then they got to sign it, and then the bank won't accept it because it's a third party check. And I mean, all kinds of scenarios, but it really sounds like you've really found a way to give the contractor back time, right? And time is of the essence. There's many different forms of time on how we perceive time, and I talked about this last night on my 2-minute live. There's acronyms for time, things that I must earn. So there's that type of time, like you got to put in the time to earn the respect, hone your skills, whatever. It just takes time sometimes. Face everything or fear everything and run, right? Time or time, meaning like more time, like we're trying to find, like, because you can't buy your time back, like all of those years wasted. There's no amount of money that could give us that time back. And so I'm trying to take us down a rabbit hole here of the importance of time on however you want to look at time, right? But Ryan, why don't you give us, I'm sure you can remember that breakout in your little slideshow and stuff that you had, calculating your time's value and your team's time too. So lead us down this rabbit hole on time and how important time is.
Sure. So it's your most valuable commodity. And I think a lot of contractors have the I can do it disease. And I get it, especially when you're building a business and you're building it from the ground up and you have your hands in so many facets of the business, it's hard to let pieces of that business go. So the first thing that you want to make sure that you're doing is you want to be cognizant of your future time, hire correctly, put the right people in the right spots. And when you set yourself up for success, you're going to be giving yourself back a lot of time to be a true leader. And then the other thing that is certainly frustrating to hear in any business is we've always done it that way. Well, if we've always done it that way, I certainly wouldn't be sitting here with you gentlemen right now, because if we've always done it that way, then I could have just been happy with the way checks are processed and happy driving an hour out to pick up a check, because that was, when I was getting paid is when that check gets into the bank. I mean, but when you have that mindset, you don't realize some very, fundamental things, right? Yes, you might have somebody in the office that does this already, that does what iink does, that calls, the mortgage companies and, sits on hold and chases that check down and does whatever. Or you may have your salespeople already running out and picking the checks up, might be just, oh, well, I'm just going to go out, pick the check up, and while I'm there, I'll talk to them about XYZ, which probably could have been done over the phone anyway. So let me just take the example of the person in the office, doing it. What if that person in the office, instead of, spending their time chasing this money that is coming to you anyway, what if they were instead contacting your customers and soliciting reviews or referrals? Do you think that might equate to an extra deal a month, an extra 2 deals a month, 3 deals? I mean, honestly, if you're doing, let's say you're doing a roof a day, right? 20 roofs a month, and you have one person in the office that is doing nothing but going above and beyond, just provide stellar customer service at the close of that job to make sure that your customers are happy. Do you think you might get a couple more, jobs in the door because you're being proactive about your customer service rather than having that person sitting on hold with Bank of America because you think you're saving money? Well, if it's costing you 2 jobs, then, our service cost you 2%. So you could do one job that person's getting is paying for our service 50 times. And that's what people don't realize is, the value that they're missing out on and the things that they should be really doing to scale their business. They've already got the best way to do it. And that, ultimately when you have that mindset and then you get crushed by your receivables, here comes the bankruptcy, right? We all, file bankruptcy, go open a new LLC with some other partner,
So Ryan, what were you into before this that opened your eyes to the opportunity to run with iink and get you where you're at now?
Roofing.
Right.
Yeah. I was down in Florida and working for a roofing company that, I just, obviously we're doing a lot of insurance work in the state. And so I learned very quickly that the payment process was just terrible with these checks. Mm-hmm. And my commissions depended on those checks getting deposited. And so, I'd be on the phones banging up the mortgage companies because I want to know where my money was at or where where these checks were at. I wanted to get these jobs built. I wanted to get paid. I wanted to get them closed out. And it was just, it was frustrating. But the reason I was the guy on the phone is because I have a background in, third-party loss mitigation. So I know what it's like dealing with the servicing departments at the mortgage companies. I used to help people out of foreclosure after the Great Recession in 2008. And, when you're at scale saving 60, 70 people from foreclosure a month and you've got a pipeline of 300 some people. I mean, we were, working directly with directly with executive departments at the banks because we couldn't deal with the level 1 customer service because they were always losing things. They were screwing things up. They're just reading things off a computer screen. And it's the same folks dealing with lost draft, and nothing against, any of those employees. It's just, it's an underfunded department of the mortgage company. And so because they lack the resources, they lack the training, and things get fumbled. It's just human error, right? The same thing translates over to every time we're sending these checks in. And I know the departments have improved since then, but it's a lot of the same human error that iink is really kind of bringing together, kind of like TSA pre-check or Clear would be for airport security, where we've built a better mousetrap to aggregate the information and analyze it and clear that payment. So they don't have to take a check in and do it. They can just sign off digitally and we can move the funds.
Yeah, that's amazing. I like how that it does seem like that would be a huge pain point. And from your experience being in the roofing industry, you've recognized and probably have felt, that pain point, whether it was somebody that you work for or you working for yourself. So I guess to come up with an idea like this, like where did you come up with, I mean, obviously you're a visionary because you're a co-founder of Inc. But what were you like sitting at a bar one night and you're like, you know what, man, like chasing these checks down is just a pain in the ass, is pain my boss's ass and a pain in my ass. Take us down that road in this journey on how you got here, like from living in your van down by the river to where you are today.
I didn't live in a van down by the river. I lived in a house in the hood down by the river, actually in Jacksonville. But we'll talk about that on a different call.
Oh, okay.
No, I was doing roofing in Jacksonville and roofing sales, and it was just very frustrating driving around for all these checks. And in my I guess professional acquaintances, I got introduced to Ken Lawler, and he was a public adjuster that was able to work with some of my clients that had difficult situations with their insurance companies. And so he and I started working together on claims, and one day he called me up and he said, "Hey, let's get together tomorrow. I want to talk to you about something." And so we got together. We went to the Ale House, and it was Sunday, September 11th, 2016. And we were sitting there just having a couple beers, talking about, how much money we had tied up just in the mortgage company. Right. And we decided to just take our experience in the industries, our respective industries, which were relevant. And we reached out to some folks in technology that I knew, my good friend Ryan Wetzel up in Boston. And we kind of, took it from there. But the first few months were interesting because we had a hurricane. It was Hurricane Matthew. It wasn't, very extreme, but it was the first one to hit Florida, I think, in like 9 years. So when I went to Florida to go get into roofing, it was kind of fortuitous that year a hurricane actually hit, but we had just started discussing this idea for Inc. And it was a lot of R&D for the first few months, but then we officially opened up a company in 2017. Believe it or not, it wasn't first called Inc. It was called something else, but we ran into some trademark issues, and ultimately it became Inc. I think sometime in March or April of that year, and then we launched service in June or July of 2017, and we're off to the races. We had a website live, and it was a TPA then. It was just us. It was three of us. I was the one processing checks, calling the mortgage company. But we were just doing whatever we had to prove concept. And we just kept, building the company, raising money, and here we are today.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So how many people do you have working for you today?
We're over 100 full-time employees.
100 full-time employees. Okay. So this
105, I think.
105. Yeah. When you get up around the 60 mark, it starts to get a little hard to keep track of everybody. I'm assuming they're probably not all under the same roof. They're probably working remote and that kind of way. Okay. Yep. Cool. So to build something like that, because obviously you're no longer considered necessarily a small business. You're kind of in the small to medium. You're starting to move up into that medium stuff. And I know you travel a lot but unfortunately or fortunately, you're typically the one that's not attending these things. You're the one that is actually participating in these conferences and stuff like that, whether you're a vendor or up on stage speaking and stuff like that. So what would you say would be like your biggest influence or mentor from afar, or do you have a business coach? How do you continuously sharpen your skills to manage and lead 100 different people? Because I know that's nothing to sneeze out.
I've been very fortunate along the way to meet some pretty incredible business leaders. Couple of my very good business mentors recently passed away in the last 2 years, and that was obviously tough, but I think it's any success comes from an aggregation of your life experiences, and I could sit here and just rattle off names left and right of people who have been impactful along the way, and there's just so many. Specifically in this industry, Troy Clymer and Eric Hepler, may rest in peace. They were very good mentors of mine, still are. I talk to Troy as regularly as I can, but I love those guys. I've known them from the very beginning, and they've taught me a lot. So especially early on, I think coming into the industry and learning that we have something that people can truly benefit from, and then to see just the partnership opportunities that presented themselves. So, TJ McCormick has become a great friend of mine. I'm learning a lot from him, and just, so many other folks that I could mention. Right. But
yeah,
Ryan, run a 100-person team that's spread out, being remote. That has got to be difficult. I know I've worked with other companies that were like remote, and you didn't really get the group together that often. So talk a little bit about the challenges of creating culture within your company when everybody's so dispersed.
Great question.
Well, it's very hard to be human when you're working remote, and perception is everything. And sometimes it's hard to see what's really going on in your coworkers' lives on a day-to-day basis to, truly empathize with, with their workload, or, how you can help them. And everybody's, I think, either advertently or inadvertently, working in silos. Everybody's got a job to do, right? But when you're working remotely, you're working pretty much by yourself at home. And so it's nice to be able to, for me at least, I can be out, and I have to travel a lot to see all my friends and all my business partners and colleagues, and we can do things on the road, but when you're sitting at home and working alone, it's tough trying to communicate, especially with multiple departments. But we are opening an office. Our very first office is going to be open in Denver. Our CEO is in Denver, Tom McGrath, and we've got some fantastic talent that is joining the team out of the Denver market. We are still keeping a good portion of our team working remote. So we're going to be doing a hybrid model. And I would say that the number one thing that everybody can practice if they are working remotely to be successful working remotely is your communication. It's the number one thing that you have to get good at, is your communication.
Mm-hmm. I can't even imagine, and kudos to you too, because especially in those types of circumstances, right? It's tough enough to relinquish responsibilities and tasks, while everybody's working under the same roof.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because this is our baby. We built this thing. We drew it up on a beer coaster, and blood, sweat, and tear and everything has gone into this. So kudos to you to relinquish the responsibilities to other people, especially working remotely, because I think that's where a lot of the bottleneck begins for a lot of business owners getting into business, is that they become the bottleneck. And because one of it's trust, and they feel like nobody can do the job better than they can do it. So they tend to hold on to things a little bit too long. And so I can't even imagine, because I know you care and I know you're passionate. We've talked face to face personally, not just remotely like this. We were actually, set up, I think it was IRE. It's kind of a blur at this point in time. So I know you're very passionate. I know you want to impact people's lives and contractors' lives, and then the ripple effect that goes out from there. And you probably have affected more people than you can even imagine, on that scale of having 100 people working full time for you, and then the contractors that they're dealing with. So think about that ripple effect there. So that's huge, right? Like the impact that you're having. But a lot of us don't start out that way. You know what I mean? Of we hold on to stuff. We stay small. Yes, we're screaming, go, 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 grow, grow, grow. But it's like when we're pointing the finger, we have 3 fingers pointing back at us, and we're the problem, right? Like we're holding back because what we have in here isn't doing anybody else any good, right? Like, so if I would pass away, and this is something I've come to learn over the years, is if I passed away today and I died with all this knowledge, what good would that have done anybody? Right. So the things that we're taught is made to be taught, right, to people. Like, and if you look at it that way, it's not about me just absorbing a whole bunch of information and traveling around the country and investing in myself. Right. I do that to have a bigger and better and more impactful impact on those individuals that are around me. And I've come to find that the best investment that I could possibly do is in myself, right? First and foremost. One, not to act like that I know everything. Learn to raise my hand, ask why are we doing this? Not just what to do. Tell me why we're doing what we're doing, so I can retain it quicker. I learn much quicker that way. Which is something else, because, and we talked a little bit about this too, like what might seem trivial to us, you know what I mean? And sometimes we don't have the patience to train people, right? And it's like, just get out of my way, I'll do it myself, kind of mentality. And I've been there and I've done that because we think it's trivial. It's like, what do you mean you don't know what a piece of drip edge is?
Oh, well, I got a great story for this.
Okay.
I learned this very early on. I was working a little part-time job to try to, keep my family afloat. I had a little baby, and we were teenage parents. And so I worked part-time in a grocery store, and they wanted somebody to help out the produce guy at lunch so he could take a break. So I go over there, and I don't know if you guys know about bananas, but they're all in the banana boxes. And immediately when bananas come in, they're supposed to be what's called uncapped. So you have to take them out, take them out and put them back in the actual box, and then peel that plastic back, because that plastic is holding in the gases that's making it those things ripen up. As you got to do that like instantly so you don't lose the bananas. So, and then you cross stack them, right? Well, this guy, I don't know anything about any of this stuff, and he goes, man, there's 20 boxes, they're 40-pound boxes, 800 pounds of bananas, right? And he goes, I need you to uncap those and trim some lettuce. I said, okay, bet, gotcha. So he leaves. I'm over there busting butt uncapping bananas from what I think uncapping means. Like, that's my perception of what uncapping is. So he comes back. Those things are stacked perfectly back. You can't even tell I've removed the boxes, right? He goes, man, I thought you was going to uncap that. I said, dude, they're uncapped, bro. Like, I'm sweating. Like, I've crushed it. And he looks down there, and I had taken all those bananas and cut the top where they were just singles. Like, literally the thing that held them all together, I went in there and cut them and put all the single bananas back into all the boxes. So he had 800 pounds of single bananas, and we about got into a fight. But I learned then, now 2 years later, I was a produce manager. So I learned quickly, but I learned the importance of the details when you train people. Like, to him, he had heard uncapping multiple times, knew what it meant. And now basically nobody goes in and buys single bananas. So he immediately had to reduce all those bananas and cut them half price just to get them out the door before they went bad. And lesson learned by him. And I don't know if he retained that was actually a coaching opportunity for him, but I know I did. And whenever I got into training later on in anything, I always remember the uncapped banana story because I know I saw it with my own eyes.
Exactly. And that was trivial to him.
Right.
He thought it was common sense for you.
That's right.
And when you can identify those types of things, and that's through experience. And like you said, hopefully he realized that was a coaching moment, not just for you, but more importantly, probably for himself on how I articulate my message to somebody. And sometimes I gotta come at it in a couple different angles to articulate so someone can see my vision, right? Whether or it's directions or a lesson on how things should be done. And going back to a little bit of, with Ryan's circumstances, to have that much trust and faith, one, in his ability to lead that many people, right? Having the confidence in himself, right? First and foremost. And then secondly, trusting those that are around him, but under good direction and leadership stewardship. Right. And developing co-leaders, right? That, and going back to what I was saying, it's like, that's why I continuously learn today, because I want to continuously, being a leader. Yes, there are born leaders. There's people born every single day, and every single one of those people can be born leaders. And yes, some of them will be born with certain qualities, right? But not exactly what it takes necessarily to be a leader, because that doesn't happen, overnight or in a day. It happens one day at a time. You know what I mean? Day after day after day after day after day. And it's really based upon your agenda for that day. Right. So it takes time. And what it is, it's a skill, right? It's not a talent. Right. It's a skill. And what the difference is a skill is that it's something that anyone can be. Right. But you have to work at it. Like Michael Jordan was probably a natural athlete. Right. But what it took to get him to that caliber of athlete and player, one, yes, there were some probably born in, things that came natural in him. That could be the fire, the grit, the competitive spirit, right? Which helped push him to work 7 days a week on his foul shots, to work 7 days a week, whatever it was that he wasn't so strong on, or he felt that he needed. But to kind of change the subject a little bit is that he knew he needed help with that. Right. And that means he invested in himself. He hired Tom Grover, right? And along with Tim Grover. Tim Grover.
Tom's his cousin.
Yeah, there you go. Tim, Tom, and John.
Yeah.
Don't forget him. He wrote a book too. Squirrel. That's okay.
I told you I was encouraging bad behavior.
Yes, I'm still haven't dropped the F-bomb, but every F-bomb that we drop, we got to put $1 in the jar for Skylar's savings account.
Well, then I'll just say it just
for the next 42. That's what I said. I would just put $500 in it right now. Anyhow, that's the promise that Jana made me make for Sky. Anyhow, Sky's my grandchild. But outside of that, and these are things that he probably didn't talk about. I'm sure he had a financial advisor. Why?
Right.
Because he didn't go to school to be an accountant or a business person, right? I'm sure he had a physical therapist too, like whether it was psychological or physical, where like they told him if he had a strained ligament in a part of his body, right? Like they helped him work that out. So he surrounded himself around people to help get him where he wanted to be, right? Because this was a journey that he couldn't do on his own without investing in himself, investing in the right people, surrounding himself around the right people that were smarter than him in certain areas that he may not be so talented in. And that could have been learning yoga. That could have been, I'm sure there's multiple things that man had to do and invested in himself to get to that level. And both those books that Tim wrote is probably not even the tip of the iceberg that goes on behind the scenes. And for me personally, I hired a personal / business coach most recently for myself, because there's what's called a leadership lid. Right. And we all hit this lid. And when a company gets bought out by another company, it's usually because they're floundering. Something's off. Right. So typically, and I asked this question to Stacy, because Stacy came from a company that was acquired by another company. And I asked her the question. I said, Stacy, when your company got acquired by another company, what was the first thing that they did? And it took her about 5.7 seconds to say is they fired the leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And why they fire the leadership. The first thing they usually do is they probably come in, they train the existing team to perform customer service better or whatever the product might be. The second thing they probably do or whatever order that might be, but one of the first things that you do, one or two, is they fire the leadership team. And most people are like, well, why would you do that? Maybe they were because obviously they hit their lid.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Because if they were actually a good leader, and again, this where I'm at today, I need to be somewhere. I need to be, and Ryan, I think you talked about it. You need to be I need to be 1% better tomorrow than I was today. Right. And if I'm not continuously on that journey, so they come in, they get rid of the existing leadership team. They don't sit down with them. They don't do anything. They get rid of them. Think about it. Right. Our country, a football team, right. They don't play around. Right. If they have a losing season, what's the first thing they do?
Yeah. Chop off the head.
They chop off the head, right?
Right.
A congregation at a church, if a pastor is not bringing the people in, first thing they do. What does a country do when we re-elect a different president because we don't like the direction? It's like that. That's just natural, whether we like it or not.
Mm-hmm.
That's what leadership lid.
Right.
Okay. So if we're not continuously trying to sharpen our leadership skills, we're going to be replaced.
Right.
At some point in time, if we're not continuously growing and learning and pouring into our team, and I think that's where I was going with this is that if I'm not continuously learning and growing, there's a couple of things that are going to happen. One, your team can possibly outgrow you, which is probably not a very comfortable position for a leader, manager, or an entrepreneur, is if your team's actually outgrowing you. So it's almost like if you have any sort of competitive spirit, it's almost like I got to stay one up. I got to stay one up. I got to stay one up. You got to continue that drive. But more importantly is because I know that I need to pour into you. I know I need to pour into them. I know that I need to pour into whoever it is in my company.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It meaning not the company TC Backer, but in my presence, that I want to have some sort of impact on that person's life. From my experiences, and Ryan, you touched on it, like our experiences have, yes, been a big part and played a role in the type of person that we are today. Right. And some people live in that shit still today. Those excuses. If you had the childhood that I had, you would be the piece of crap that I am today.
I talked about that today on my live on my Facebook.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, and then there's others that use that as the fire, right? To want to be a better person. But then once that resentment starts to dissipate and we set ourselves off on this journey, we realize that we're pretty good at what we do. Right. And what I do and what I know and how I've educated myself may actually end up impacting other people. And then at some point in time through our career, and it should be, we get joy out of watching other people blossom and learn and sharpen their skills and be influenced by us, because I was a bad influence at one point in time. I hung around people that were bad influences on me at one point in time. And water seeks its own level. So if I'm hanging out with the street thugs, guess who I'm going to sound like? Guess who I'm going to dress like? Guess who I'm going to look like? Right. I'm going to look like a street thug. But if I'm hanging around with people, right, that are speaking intelligently, that are dressing professionally, or whatever the case might be, right? Or even better than me. And I've been talking a lot about ego and fear. I'm not allowing my ego or my fear to get in the way of experiencing Uganda. I am not allowing my ego and my fear to get in the way to hire a business coach. I'm not allowing my ego and fear to meet with my accountant once a week, starting October 12th, because I want to take it to the next level. And I need to surround myself around people who went to school for financial accounting and business management. I need to hang around with people who are sales coaches. I need to hang around with people that are digital content creators. I need to hang out with these people because these are things that we need in our lives today because of what we're trying to do and where we're trying to go. Right. Like I know you can train our teams. I know Vic can put our content out there, whether it be our 21 Turkey Salute, whether it be our marketing for TC Backer, whether it be our marketing for Horizon Lawns, whether it be our food drive. I'm going to do a plug October 26th. So please drop food off at the shop. Whatever that case, whatever it is, I know I can't do. And I tried.
Right.
I tried. And I probably wasted 7 years of my career trying to do it all myself, doing 15 different tasks that turned into 12 50-hour a week full-time jobs. And that's no freaking exaggeration.
Right.
And I've had many people tell me, like, why are you still doing this? And why haven't you found anybody else? Because I really wasn't looking. And probably the way that my leadership was at that time, nobody probably wanted to be around me anyhow, because it was all up here.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I didn't want to share the love. I didn't want anyone to see my day planner. And then finally Janet came in one day and snapped a picture of my day planner. Mm-hmm. And then somebody else came along and was like, there's a Google Calendar that we can all see. And then it just kind of like started to blossom from there. My eyes started to open up.
Right.
And I still, in that office back there, was one of my second or third actual office after we left my living room. I still have day planners from like 2001, 2002, 2003. They're still in the filing cabinet in there because I didn't forget where I come from, bum. Mm-hmm. That pain was great enough where I got off my dead ass and I finally did something about it. And I raised my freaking hand and was like, I need help.
Right.
You know what I mean? And sorry to go off on that tangent a little bit, but Ryan, like, to have 105 people working remotely, dude, I would be losing my shit. I would have already had a private jet. I would have knew where every single non-national airport was. So I could like fly in to all of these people, visit them, try to pour into them, make sure I couldn't do that. So kudos to you. And again, sorry for
Thank you.
No, man.
running
That
off.
was great stuff. And
it's all good. I mean, we have an amazing team. They're very talented. We certainly focus on ensuring that we hire the right individuals for the right positions. And we've got a lot of very talented individuals that are leading the charge, and advisors that are a lot smarter than us helping out. So we're super excited for just all the support and just a wonderful team. And I think, they enjoy coming to work. I enjoy every day waking up and being able to do whatever I can for Inc. Whether it be, going to an event or, working with one of the departments on launching a new campaign or, helping build out trainings, whatever it may be. But, at the end of the day, this thing is way bigger than I am. It's way bigger than even, the founding team. It's going to be way bigger than 100 and, some people that we have now. And I'm excited for every minute of the ride.
Yeah, no doubt. And that's what it is. It's a journey. There's no, for me at least anyhow, the reason why we call it a journey is because there's no finish line, to where at least we want to go. And it is a journey. It's a learning experience along the way. And one of the biggest things about leadership too is the mistakes made along the way. Right. And learning from those mistakes, but most probably importantly is being and apologizing and admitting when you're wrong. Right. And staying receptive and keeping an open mind and keeping your ears open. Right. Is probably one of the biggest things. And again, that's ego and fear mixed together. And to me, there's only two emotions that a human being feels. That's fear / hatred or love. Right. Mm-hmm. So whatever emotions that you're feeling, it all stems from, I don't care if it's depression, anxiousness, anxiety, that's all fear stuff. Right. And of course we love and like, and all of those, good emotions that we feel, confidence, all those things that's love. There's only two emotions that a human being feels. And once you can identify, am I allowing my ego to get in the way and shut my ears down, and I'm not being receptive and I'm not taking in the message, because there's always a coaching moment. Mm-hmm. There is always,
We talk about that all the time.
There's
Like,
always a coaching moment in
Yeah.
something, right? Even if it's the worst thing that I could possibly ever thought that I'm going through today. There's always something great or good that's going to come out of that situation, right? A learning experience, a lesson, and this is the other thing too. And this is where I think maturity comes in your leadership abilities is like, do I freak out and make the matters worse? Because I can make any situation as bad as I want, or I can make it as good as I want. And believe it or not, we actually have 2.3 seconds of time to make that decision. We actually make a decision in our minds to make it as bad as we want or as good as we want. And unfortunately, fortunately, I've reacted poorly to so many things in my life and realized how badly I made it worse. No matter if you did something to me, right? And I reacted even more poorly towards you. Most people don't see what that person actually did to me because my reaction trumped what I felt like they did to me. I've done that. I don't know how many times. Right. But then I've had similar situations happen where I've handled it very good. Right. And I was open to it. I expressed empathy. Right. Usually it's an individual involved, right? Whether it's somebody that cut me off at a red light or whatever the case might be, we put the wrong roof on somebody's house. Right. I mean, in most people's eyes, especially early on, they would think that was the worst thing. You know what we did? How did it happen? I don't care what part of the system is broke or what step did we miss to alleviate putting the wrong colored shingle on somebody's roof. Did that too. And also have accidentally somebody got a free roof. So we're in the process. So I could have belittled that person. Right. And just been the biggest a-hole. Okay. Skylar, I'm still going to put money in the jar. Or handled it with integrity, with empathy, with all of those things and go out and just make it and go out and put the right roof on. Right. And break even, because at the end of the day, really, it's not even about the money. The money comes later when you continuously do the next right thing for someone else, for those around you, and for a lot of times for people that you don't even know. And when you continuously do that, you're impacting people's lives that you don't even know that you're impacting because of how you treated that person. And then when they leave your presence, and then how they handled or treated somebody else after they left there. I mean, there's like this harmonious vibe, and what vibe do I choose to radiate today? Right. And I know some days I need to keep that door closed up there because I don't want to radiate that shit on anybody else. But I know how to get to that place quicker, that good place where I can be at 100%, because there are times I'm allowed to be at 70%. But when I'm with my team and I'm pouring into my team, and there's certain days that I know that I must be at 100%. Right. And how am I going to continue to be at that level so I'm not regurgitating the same thing over and over and over and over and over? Although I have learned it takes at least 7 times. It takes at least 7 times of you repeating something over and over. The first time, they usually don't believe you. The second time, they're like, there he is again. Third time, it's starting to sink in. Fourth time, they're like, okay, this is getting old. Fifth time, sixth time, seventh time. By the 5th, 6th, and 7th time, they're like, okay, we are moving in this direction now, or this is how we actually do something. So if and when you're coaching or training someone, usually it takes 7 times before they actually start to believe what you're saying.
And don't you feel like as leaders, you all those mistakes and all the things that you did before, that's the sign of a good leader and a born leader, because they can have the self-coach and self-awareness and the perception that they can own that and then learn from it. Like a lot of times we like, I think in my earlier years before all these gray hairs kicked in, these things are well learned from a lot of mistakes, you know what I'm saying? And kind of carried myself like I was a leader, but realistically I didn't own enough stuff myself. The mistakes that was made, I didn't realize that was really on me because I didn't do a good enough job leading. And I think that's why this company is as successful as it is. That's why this podcast is, because that you make mistakes, you own it, and then but you're humble enough to learn from it. And then because of that, people see this and they want to be part of that, because nobody wants to be you know, part of somebody that's just like full of pride and like, oh, do as I say. And I was like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and so kudos, man. Like just being around great leaders, man. And I know, you know, you're obviously doing a great job with what you're doing, Ryan, to have a company that's grown to that point. You guys obviously have great leadership in place as well. So I know a lot of things that we're talking about here is echoing through your company as well.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Good deal.
Where are we at? We're in an hour and 4 minutes. That was good. Ryan, it is always been a pleasure, man. We here at TC Backer wish you only the greatest of fortune, prosperity, leadership, and you know, all good things for you, man. I mean, you're hanging out with the right circle of people. I see who you mingle with out there. So you are getting more mentoring from other people, whether you know it or not, because you're very coherent and you're very aware of your surroundings. And each day, you know, is a learning experience, especially with all the traveling that you do. So big shout out to you. Big shout out to your company. And it's something that we should probably look into at some point in time too. You know, dig into a little deeper here and see how he can't help our company, you know, facilitate the funds a lot quicker, especially at a newer location. If we go to open up another location someplace else, that might actually help facilitate some of that a lot quicker. Expedite the process of you know, getting that cash flow flowing a lot sooner, or just anybody starting out in the industry, you know, I guess preferably the storm restoration aspect of it, which there is a ton of it out there. You know, basically the southern states, whether it's Louisiana, Oklahoma, Texas, especially Florida. Anyone wanting to get into the roofing space, you know, should definitely you know, look up iink, which is a badass name. I love your truck. I love your RV. I love all your stuff. And, you know, and marketing and branding, man, that's your brand. That SUV, that, you know, the Hummer that you got has become your trademark that I look for at every show that I'm at.
It's a Jeep.
Oh, is it?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
It's a SoFlo custom. We love the Jeep. And if you guys are going to be at RoofCon, the Jeep and the bus are going to be on the floor. So
nice. Maybe we'll do a podcast from inside the SUV or the Jeep.
Yeah,
we'll definitely do that. So we're looking forward to it at RoofCon.
Good stuff. All right. Well, that concludes this episode 196. Don't forget about the 21 Turkey Salute. Don't forget about October 26th. We are doing a food drive. If you go onto our Facebook page, either mine, TC Backers, Horizons, I'm sure Vic's going to probably post some of the things that we're looking for: non-perishables, healthcare items, diapers. The diaper sizes are actually on our flyer here. If you are a business owner or a business or work for a business that may want to participate in this, if you guys want to create a box, we can actually come out and pick it up on the 26th. That's kind of where the word or the phrase or the name of it, the third annual food drive, was our intentions was to drive around to other businesses, local businesses within the community that wanted to participate in this. Is that we got a big 16 or 20 foot box truck where we just drive around the community, York County, and picking up boxes of food. And a big shout out to Ben Weaver and his team over there at Insurance Services United. They've been a big supporter of us. Dan Barker over at Members First is a big supporter, and the list goes on. Somebody's actually people started to drop off boxes of canned goods and stuff like that. So thank you to everyone that has participated in the past, and thank you to everyone that has participated thus far. We got a little bit of time left. It's not quite October, so we got a little over a month. So clean out your cabinets. I know everybody's got canned goods in their cabinets that need cleaned out. Ramen noodles, ramen noodles, you know, whatever you got, man, we'll take it as long as it's not expired. I think they kind of frown upon that, putting it on the shelves in the food pantry there. But anyhow, that's enough of that. Thank you guys for tuning in every week, almost 4 years strong. So thank you guys. You guys have a wonderful evening.
Later.